An immigrant is someone who has left a place of origin or an intermediate place to come and live in a new place.
If I had a need to do it all over again, I believe I would.
Eu tentei várias vezes assim cruzar a fronteira.
Uma parte da minha vida pertence aqui. Eu ajudei esse país, entende? Eu ajudei a construir um pedaço. Então, uma parte de mim está aqui.
The American dream consists of the opportunity to work hard and obtain something, something that will allow a better station in life.
I came to U.S. for better life, of course.
Eu vim para a América para ter uma vida melhor.
Na verdade, eu vim para a América em busca de uma vida melhor.
The word immigrant is a more modern version of an older word, emigrant, that was used until sometime in the 18th century to speak about people who were going out of some place and coming to the new land. We've changed it round, and we look at immigrants as people who are leaving someplace and coming into the new land. Immigrants leave where they're leaving from because there are factors that may be pushing them out. Or alternatively, they're leaving where they're leaving from in order to go to some place that's attracting them. That is, there are factors of push and there are factors of pull, is the way immigrant historians usually look at the matter. When immigrants are leaving and seeking a new place, it's usually because conditions behind them are less attractive than conditions in front of them. Sometimes terribly unattractive conditions behind them, sometimes harmful or dangerous conditions behind them, sometimes places ahead of them that are attractive in a variety of ways. The single biggest reason for immigration to the United States over the many years that it's been taking place is economic. Immigrants come to the United States for opportunity, for economic opportunity.
In fact, what made me decide to come to the U.S. is that my salary was too low. I used to make $100 a month, and it was just not enough for me.
Until the 1920s, tended to come from the lower classes in European society. And they tended to be those who dug the ditches, built the railroads, worked in the factories, and did the heavy labor that was necessary in a nation that was building its communication system and building its industry. There was a hiatus after that. The 1920s saw restrictive immigration legislation, and the 1930s saw the Great Depression, and the 40s saw the war. After that, for the next several years, there were changes in the way in which the United States looked at its immigrant forebears. And perhaps also there was the fact that the immigrants who had come at the beginning of the century had had children who were now able to vote. So immigration law changed in 1965, and doors were opened at that point that allowed large numbers of Latin Americans and Asians to arrive that had never been arriving before.
To get to the United States took me 7 days from the day I left home, and I came by Mexico because the visa that I got, that I had bought, wasn't too good, so I didn't have the courage to go to the immigration, face it, so I was afraid to be deported. So I started in Rio in February 20. I've got to San Diego in February 27. on Sunday. So I took a trip from Rio to Lima, Peru, from Lima to Mexico City, which we spend overnight in a hotel, and then we go from Mexico City to Tijuana, they say. There we spend another 3 days or so waiting for the best time to go across, which you leave all your clothes, you can go only what your body can get on, and that was it. And from midnight to 3 o'clock in the morning was the best time to go across, and everything happened that time. It's so fast that, you know, sometimes it's like I don't want to go back and do it again, because it's like helicopters, things flying over, horses, people checking you, people selling drugs beside the rivers, across the highway, and a woman selling their body. It's like another world. People only believe it seeing it. Some people never make it here, never go back either. But I'm happy I did. So, and that night we start the process at midnight in Tijuana. We get to San Diego 5 o'clock in the morning. From walking, people losing people, you know, and the guys carrying us in vans and things like that. People throw rocks in on the bushes where you hide overnight. Looks like they all know what's going on, and you know, and you see everything. It's like a mafia. Everywhere you go, you pay a little bit. You know, when you get here, you probably get like $10 in the pocket.
No dia que eu finalmente atravessei a fronteira,
The day we finally crossed the border, we went there at 6 p.m. We stayed until midnight. Then we tried to cross 5 times. We went up the hill where we found 2 border patrol vehicles. And then we ran back and jumped the wall back to Mexico. More or less, we were caught at 2 a.m. And then I had to spend 31 days in jail.
Foi que eles conseguiram pegar a gente, onde eu fiquei 31 dias preso. Após eu cruzar a fronteira por uma manilha de mais ou menos 30 metros de comprimento, uma manilha de espessura bem fina, onde quase que o corpo
After I
possível
crossed the
passar
border,
por ela.
through a drain canal which was about 100 feet long and so narrow that my body could barely fit. We went through the drain because we couldn't be spotted by the border patrol. Then we went through a half-mile-long sewer, but the helicopters were patrolling the area, which made our trip even harder. We tried to hide, but it wasn't possible. While hiding under shrubs, 6 border patrol vehicles surrounded us. Some tried to run, but it wasn't possible. They stepped on my back and told me not to move. Then they took my hands behind my back and handcuffed me along with 2 of my friends.
Eu, por exemplo, eles pisaram sobre minhas costas e pediu que eu não mexesse. Onde me algemaram eu e mais 2 brasileiros da minha cidade também.
Para o que aconteceu comigo para a imigração me pegar no Canadá, eu fui encontrar com meu filho em...
When I was caught by the INS,
Eu tinha esquema
I was going to meet my
cruzar a
son in
fronteira
Canada.
de barco.
I had a scheme to cross the border by boat,
Eu não tinha visto o Canadá.
but I had to be on the Canadian side,
E
and I didn't have a Canadian
umas
visa.
pessoas, amigo meu, me falaram
Some friends
que
of mine
a fronteira do
told
Canadá
me
era
that the
aberta
Canadian border
de madrugada.
would be open after
Eu tentei
midnight,
passar para lá, mas quando eu cheguei,
so I decided to cross then.
eu não pude
But
passar.
when I
Porque
tried, they had closed it,
entre o
so I couldn't
Canadá
go through.
e os Estados Unidos.
I was
Eu
stuck
optei por
on the
voltar para os
bridge,
Estados Unidos, de cima
in
da
between
ponte, eu optei
Canada
pro lado
and the
americano,
US.
porque eu vivia aqui.
so I decided to
Eu tinha
come
como
back to
provar
the
que eu
US
vivia.
side.
Foi aonde
because I lived there
eu fiquei o dia inteiro preso.
and I had a proof. So then I spent the whole day in jail at the INS
marcaram
office.
Para eu
em
voltar em
Buffalo.
Buffalo em dezembro.
They
Eu
set a
voltei
court
na
date
corte.
and told me to come back.
4 meses depois que me pegaram.
When I came back,
eu voltei na
4
corte.
months later, the judge told me
O juiz falou
that
que
the
a
best
melhor
thing
coisa
to
era eu
do
voltar
was to
voluntariamente.
leave the US voluntarily.
De qualquer maneira,
But
eu não
I would
podia
not
entrar
be
no
able
país
to
em 10
come
anos.
back
Ou
to the
voluntariamente
US
ou
for
deportado.
another 10
Eu tinha que
years,
ficar 10 anos
even
no país.
if I had left voluntarily.
E eu fiquei.
They gave me 4
me deram
months to
4
leave,
meses para deixar o
but I
país.
decided not to go,
Eu resolvi não deixar.
I
o
still
país.
have the plane
Eu tô com a
tickets,
passagem
just in case the INS
comprada para ir
ever
ao Brasil.
comes
A
after me.
imigração,
But I would somehow come back
a
in
minha
15
procura, eu
days
estou
with a new
estou
name
baseado
and
em
identity.
uma condição. 15 dias eu estou de volta na América. De outra maneira, com outro nome. De qualquer maneira eu voltarei.
Quando eu fui preso, eu senti um pouco de medo, porque, na verdade, às vezes,
When I was arrested,
já aconteceu com pessoas
I
de
felt
outra cidade
fear,
também, que foi preso
because
e
people I
apanhasse
know
muito,
have been
porque
beaten
as pessoas
because the
pensavam
Border
que
Patrol thought that they were
eles
immigrant
fossem
smugglers.
as pessoas
So they put a lot of
pensavam
pressure on us,
e
especially on me, because
faziam
I could
pressão
speak a
sobre
little
a
bit
gente,
of Spanish,
principalmente sobre eu.
so they pressured me to say that I was an immigrant
Entendia
smuggler.
mais ou menos
But
espanhol, pouquinho
I was
espanhol.
only an immigrant
Eles
trying to
queriam
struggle into the
me pressionar
US.
e me forçando que eu falasse que eu era coiote. Só que, porém, eu era uma das pessoas que tinha viajado também ao destino dos Estados Unidos.
O INS não adianta.
It doesn't matter if the INS deports the immigrants, because the immigrant live here. They have 10,000 ways to get back. The thing that they would do is flood the black market with more people to buy fake documents. People spend $10,000 in order to come here, so the INS is just flooding the market. I think it is an injustice to people who come here and help this country grow.
Ajudar esse país a crescer.
Na verdade,
In fact,
o processo de
it didn't matter if we got
não
caught
resolvem eles prenderem a
and
gente,
deport her
porque
back,
se eles mandam a gente
because
pro Brasil,
we would be back the next week to
na
try
próxima
again.
semana a gente já está de volta.
As you know, we always use things illegal when you come here on the black market. And as soon as I had a chance, I legalized my situation and I paid all my taxes and I don't owe anything to the Social Security or anything like that. So I like to be clean, you know. The only thing that I did that was wrong was come the way I did because I didn't have any chance the other way. But everybody knows about that, including the immigration, because when I went to the process of legalization, I told them the truth and everything. They have all the archives and everything.
But immigrants contribute because they serve in capacities such as the numbers of foreign physicians that you find in hospitals, or they serve in capacities that other people might not choose to serve in, sweeping up and washing dishes and the like. They serve in both ways.
My first job was as a dishwasher. I used to work from 4 to 11:30 at night, 5 days a week, beginning from Wednesday to Sunday. Is that right? 5 days? So they used to pay me $5.50 an hour. So I used to make a check of $200, and I used to live with 13 people in an apartment. We split an apartment of 3 bedrooms, 13 guys. So you imagine, I used to sleep in a window curtain. So when I used to come work home, everybody was like most gone or working, people eating, whatever. I would just take my boots off, take my shower, go to sleep. In the morning, get up, do a little bit these, studying a little bit, which I did, which was good. I studied English at home myself, and like every time that I had open, go and read a little bit, study this, study that, so make improvements in my work. So I washed dish for maybe 6 or 8 months, then I get promoted in the kitchen. I start to learn the cooking and all that prep. So in about a year and a half, I was line cook, which made my salary go up a little bit. So, and I started to get used to the language. People helped me out. These never afraid of asking questions or make mistake, which is still happen to this day, because second language is like, you know, you never learn it.
Immigrants are valued for the labor that they give to the building of the nation. And they're feared because they're different. So Americans sometimes see immigrants and applaud their arrival, and Americans sometimes see immigrants and worry because they're so different. They look different, they think differently, they speak differently, they eat different foods. And as a consequence, there's a kind of ambivalence about the way Americans see immigrants. Beginning about in the late 1980s, I would suppose, there has been a growing resistance to immigration in the United States. And you can see that that's the case in some of the legislation in California and elsewhere. A fear that immigrants are becoming too numerous, that they are sucking the financial structure in a way that depletes everybody's portion. I think myself that that's a gross exaggeration of the situation. As a generalization, immigrants make a contribution to this society. As may be the case in an individual location, it may be otherwise. But Americans see immigrants as strangers, and strangers are not always welcome.
America never been the way I used to expect it to be in the first place, because it looks much better when you're not here than when you are. America looks much better outside, so people have better picture with what's is the truth. It's what you see, you know. It's a free country, but nothing's free, if you know what I mean.
The birth rate of the immigrant population, especially those who are from the lower socioeconomic strata, tends to be higher than the birth rate of native-born Americans. That is, they have lots more children in the schools. That requires more school buildings, more teachers, more money. And so they cost. They cost. On the other hand, of course, they work, they earn, and they pay their taxes. But in some instances, the amount they pay and the amount that they cost may be different, and the cost may be excessive from the point of view of local communities. Immigrants also can be a burden on the welfare system in certain pockets. Overall, however, immigrants tend to be very hard workers and are often preferred to native-born Americans because they have the willingness to put in the kind of energy that someone who's really striving to get along has to put in. That was true at the beginning of this century in the factories, and it's true now in restaurants and the like, where workers are washing dishes and sweeping up.
I left my girlfriend, you know, family, my job, and I came to a place that, first of all, I didn't speak the language, no place to live, and don't know what I'm gonna do for work. So that makes me, you know, how can I forget that? And all of a sudden, you end up washing dishes and working maybe way too much hours for a little money just to keep you going, you know?
The future of immigration in the United States is one that probably will follow the same general patterns it has in the past. There will be times when it will be encouraged, and there will be times when it will be discouraged. Because immigration is inevitable as people seek to improve the quality of their lives. The United States is not the only nation that is an immigrant recipient nation. All through Latin America, Australia, parts of, well, certainly South Africa, are immigrant receiving areas. And people move to where they think they're going to do better. And that will continue. That will continue.
The United States for me right now, it's a place that I feel very comfortable here. And I do well. I don't make a lot, but I make enough. So I feel that my life is pretty good, and I give my family what I wish I could done in my country. But I feel like here it's much easier to do, and I think it's a great place to live.
Today, America is everything to me, because everything I have today, I got in the U.S.
A América para mim hoje, eu acho que é o paraíso.
America for me is paradise, because it is part of my life. Even though I'm a foreigner, I love my country, but it is this country that gave me a better lifestyle.
Mas aqui que me deu a melhor condição de vida para mim foi aqui, América. I love America.